Okay, when we start this, we're gonna go ahead and start by creating a new file. If you're not in, if you had another project open in Blender, go ahead and start a new one. And you want to make sure you're in general. Okay. And then the second thing we want to do is go and select our camera and go ahead and delete that by right clicking. We're going to select our light, right click again and delete that. Then we're going to select our cube. Now, right after we select our cube, we're going to go ahead and switch to sculpt mode. Important, switch to sculpt mode. Then after that, we're going to go to the active user settings over here in the draw. And you're going to see your brush settings over here, and you can see how big your brush is right now. We're at 50 points. When you zoom in a little bit on the cube, you're going to see how big the brush is. For now, we're just going to leave it there. The second thing we're going to do is select the okay, so this is important. So we want to select dynamic topography, and it's going to give you a warning sign, vertex data detected. It's okay. It says the DIPO will not preserve vertex colors, UVs, or other custom data. That's okay. We just select okay for that. And then I want you to kind of hit the drop down there. I want you to understand that the relative detail has to do for the dynamic topology, has to do with if we're zoomed in, how small that's going to look there if I just did a little spiral. And then if I go back, how big that's going to look there. So I'm going to go ahead and Control Z both of those, but I wanted you to understand that it will be bigger the further back you get. So that's important. So what we're going to go ahead and do is go ahead and change the radius of our brush size here. Oops. The brush settings, we're going to go ahead and select. You can kind of just click it and drag it, and you'll see that this brush size has changed, and you see how much better those vertexes look there, and all your verticals look better. And you can see that we're only sculpting on the x-axis, so you can see we're sculpting on two sides of the object for right now. Now, another thing you should know in your user settings is that you can change that. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of minimize the brush settings and the dynamic topology settings and go to symmetry. In the symmetry, we have the X, and that's the one that we're sculpting on, and we have the Y, and we have the Z. These are all your axes, and we can select all three of them. So I'm going to use the center wheel to navigate around. You want to make sure you're sculpting all around. Essentially, your assignment is the same as it was last week, except we're starting from a cube, and we're going to be able to do a lot more detail, and we're going to just kind of look at it from a different type of way now that you've got a little bit of familiarity with the tools. So I'm going to go ahead and left click, and you can see I'm able to kind of start shaping, and I can kind of turn around the object and make it more head-like. And right now I'm making it in all three axes. And so I like to just like, I guess, sculpt in just the X. And one thing that's really nice that is hard to understand, or I guess it was slow for me to get, is that you can just hold down the shift key and use your left click and kind of subtract. And then you don't have to go to like the brush settings to subtract. You could just like subtract by holding down the shift key and dragging on the object. Now I'm going to kind of move around. And you can kind of see how that works. I'm just kind of shaping the object as I go here. And I can, again, you can change your brush size. I'm just kind of making the shape of the head. Okay, so there you go. And I can go back and kind of unhold down that shift key, and you can see what happens here. Kind of making an alien looking head, but yeah, you can see what it looks like here. So I'm just like playing and sculpting around the object here. Um, One thing that I would suggest you do is get used to going to the brush settings, and you're gonna need to kind of change those in order to do like eye cavities and things, and you can zoom in, which should help you, and then hold down shift, and you can kind of see what that does there. And you can change the strength of your brush too. So I can zoom in. I can select subtract to, and that just like we did before. Um, so when we get into doing like more information, we can get into doing that way and kind of start seeing what's happening here. Um, Again, the directional thing in your brush settings, you can change those. You all are familiar with that. You could change this. You can go ahead and the auto smoothing setting too with your brush, you can change that. I'm trying to do it without going too crazy. I'm going to put it at a 0.5 for right now. And that 0.5, you can kind of see the difference there, and how that smoothed out the surface. So your project is really just to kind of sculpt on this kind of a, starting with that cube. You can go ahead and start making your head, and remember, add, subtract, additive and subtractive drawing properties here. So I hope that this video was helpful to get you started on that. And yeah, all right, get to it.